Hi, I'm Faye. I'm your Seeker Ballet coach, and welcome to Intro to Ballet, where we break down individual steps one by one. Today's lesson is all about dégagé. Today's Intro to Ballet segment is all about dégagé. So what does dégagé mean? It means to disengage. So you can think of dégagé as being a tendu that disengages from the floor. So dégagé is usually the third or fourth exercise you do at the bar. You often do more than one dégagé combination at different speeds. And when you dégagé, you're going to brush through a tendu and then lift it a few inches off the floor and close. So that's the basics about dégagé. Now, there's a couple key things you want to think about when you're doing a dégagé. You want to keep the pressure on the bottom of your foot really strongly into the floor from your standing position. So I mean, if you're standing in first or if you're standing in fifth, before you start the movement, you want to really feel your foot pushing down, almost like digging down into the floor. So you're going to increase the friction on the bottom of your foot as strongly as possible on your way out through demi-pointe off. And then when you come back to close, you're going to go through a tendu, through that demi-pointe, put the pressure back on that foot and pull to a close. So you're trying to create resistance on the way out and on the way in to activate the top of your leg. It's very similar to what you would do in a tendu, except because you come off the floor, you put even a little bit more force into it. So dégagé is to warm up your feet, strengthen your calves, strengthen your toes, but it's very important for preparing for jumps because again, you're pushing through that demi-pointe from half to full and you're pushing all the way off the floor. So you're using that last range of motion that you would need when you do a jump. So it's very important for a lot of petit allegro and grand allegro in the center. When you dégagé, you only want to go a couple inches off the floor. Tendu is on the floor. Dégagé is going to be maybe 2 or 3 inches off the floor. If you go higher, that becomes a jeté, which means to throw, and you're throwing that leg a little higher. It's a slightly different purpose for the movement. So for dégagé, you're just controlling to a few inches off the floor and close. You don't want to just kick because then it becomes a kick instead of a foot movement. And this is a foot movement. When you close your foot from a dégagé, sometimes you're going to be going really fast. You might be doing fast dégagés in first facing the bar, for example. You want to make sure your foot is actually relaxing all the way. You don't want to see tension held underneath your arches or pulling or rolling. You want your foot to be nice and flat so that you can maximize the friction that you're creating with the bottom of your foot. So you don't want to close when it's fast and keep your arch clenched. You want it to relax completely to a flat foot every single time you close. You also want to keep your knees completely straight. So this can be hard. Again, when you're going in fifth, it's going to be even harder because a lot of people will try to bend their knee to close fifth and then straighten their knee afterwards. But when you do that, you're losing all of the engagement in your upper thigh. So you want to keep your knees actively pulled up, the pressure through your foot, and then when you close, you keep that knee actively pulled up so there's no relaxing and bending of the knees unless you are specifically closing in a plie. So other than that, it should always be a straight knee. There should be no give in your knee on the way out or on the way in. And it's going to be especially hard in fifth because closing fifth tight with a straight knee is tricky, especially if you're trying to put your feet in a fifth position that you don't have the turnout for. So if you have trouble closing with straight knees, you want to just check that you are not twisting and forcing your turnout in your ankles, but that you're actually able to hold your turnout, push, close without having to do any adjusting. You don't want your hips to be part of your dégagé. You don't want to have a lot of hip movement. It's not like a hula bounce, right? You want to keep your hip bones completely level so that they're unaffected by the movement of your foot, which means your standing leg has to be the stabilizing hold for your working leg to move quickly. Very similar to tendu, the shape of your foot in dégagé. You want to make sure that when you go to the front, your instep is lifted towards the ceiling. You're not sickling your foot. When you go to the side, you want your foot to be completely straight. And when your heel forward, so when you go to the side, you want your foot to be completely straight, your heel forward, you're rotating from the top of your leg. And when you go to the back, you're going to be lifting that pinky toe up towards the sky. You should not be pointing your heel up towards the sky, and you should not be pointing your toe to the floor. It should be pinky toe lifted to the sky, heel reaching down towards the floor, so you have a nice long instep in the back. If you liked today's class, please like and subscribe. If you have any requests or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, you can email me at secretballetcoach@gmail.com. And until next time, keep it on the QT.